Mambo Vipi, what's happening? My name is Anyiko, Owoko, and I am a lover of arts, culture, and everything African. And here, we grant you front row access to your favorite celebrities, creators, the biggest personalities, and industry experts. Come with me. You're now a VIP. This is what to expect on this week's episode.
It's up to us as filmmakers. It's up to us as an industry to build our audience in such a way that it's not just the Kenyan audience that's looking for the films. Because people out there are really hungry. Like I said, we have the event Shots, and Shots. It is a traveling event. So like we've done screenings in Paris, we've done screenings in Durban, in Tanzania. And every time we go, people actually want to come out, especially in Europe. People actually do want to come out and watch these films because they don't have access to them. A film like Shimoni, when it went to France, as much as it did independent cinemas, it had like a whole 10-week cinema run in France. A Kenyan film done in Kikuyu.
In terms of IP, when I started out, I used to be afraid of that. And so I would have NDAs with all sorts of producers who I think probably did not even want to talk to me ever again, because it would be such a block before we even start getting to talk about the story. But your story, the moment it's written down, is protected under IP law. As long as it's written down, if you have that evidence, and now we are on emails, whatnot, like the paper trail exists. So on top of that, you can register it with, Kekobo.
I've seen shows that have become hits because of marketing, and the producers did plan ahead. The first one was Mali. I've mentioned that before. And the producer, by the time we were doing the script read-throughs, she mentioned that we're going to do billboards for the first time in Kenya for actors. She'd already planned that. I don't think they had money, at least what we were paid, for sure. There couldn't have been money, for sure, on that thing. And yes, it was on NTV. So I don't know if it's really about the money or if it's about the planning.
Hello. Welcome back to VIP Access. Always great to have your company. Welcome to part 2 of our conversation around making Kenyan stories bankable and the balance between craft and commerce. If you listened to the episode last week, you know that we're not asking whether Kenyan stories are bankable. It's very clear that they are bankable, but we're discussing how to make them more bankable and the balance between the craft and commerce. Last week, we were joined by an amazing group of panelists who are going to be joining us again this week. I'm going to read out a little bit about their bios. Arnold Mwanjila is an award-winning writer and director from Nairobi, Kenya. His credits include Talia, a dark fantasy feature on Netflix, and he recently wrote Sugar Mashariki, Team Sayari, and the sci-fi drama Subterranea, which was on Showmax. Our other panelist, Mumbi Maina, is an award-winning Kenyan actor working across film and TV in Africa internationally. She gained recognition for her role in the Netflix series Sense8 and Netflix film Nafsi. She also appeared in The Matrix Resurrections. Mumbi began her career in 2009 with Unseen, Unsung, Unforgotten, earning a Kalasha Award nomination. In 2010, she trained in film production at Mnet's Magic Factory in South Africa and later received further nominations for Shattered, in which she starred alongside Rita Dominic, the short film Lina, and the TV series Mali. Her work includes projects across Kenya and Nigeria, including the Nigerian feature La Femme Anjola, for which she received an AMVCA nomination for Best Supporting Actress. Susan Mbogo sits at the helm at DocuBox, which is an East African documentary film fund. With over 8 years of experience in nonprofit management and film production, she has progressed through key roles within the organization, building strong expertise in grants management, financial oversight, and program delivery. Today, we hope that she'll talk to us more about what it takes to fund projects and what are the funders looking at when it comes to storytelling. Let's get straight into it.
My name is Kea Franklin. I am an entertainment journalist with the Kenyan Vibe. I'm not a filmmaker. I sit in the ecosystem. I can see the filmmakers' brains here. So, Susan, you talked about the ecosystem, and there's something that I hear a lot, this thing called gatekeeping. I feel like the biggest barrier to this bankability is gatekeeping. So let's start with me being in the ecosystem. I know what gatekeeping is. So I feel, for instance, Anas Toto, he hosted his film on YouTube. He was talking about how he spent 5M and he got like 300K. And please note that YouTube is among the few social media that pay in Africa. So let's get your question is, I would love this gatekeeping thing to be addressed, especially from your perspective. If I see multi-choice, they have reduced in, their pay to TV, I feel like, oh, how are they going to sustain themselves? And then Showmax now to DSTV stream.
I'm assuming the gatekeeping is in terms of like how people are making money and the information that's been shared. And I like that you mentioned Butita. I think he did his own post like on how he's doing it, right, with Nastoto. And he said that he spends 500K per episode and he's done 3 seasons, 12 episodes each. And he's only making 21,000 from each episode. But you see, Butita, he hacked it. By the time Nastoto was done with season 1, he had 13 million viewers. And not just Kenyan viewers, he has a really huge diaspora audience. And if you look at how YouTube does the payments, he's earning more because his audience is in the diaspora, right? As compared to someone whose audience is just here. Because I think he did a whole comparison, like if it was just Kenyan audience, would be earning like with the 13 million, he'd only be earning like, I think he said 150,000 or something like that. But you see, that's the thing. It's up to us as filmmakers. It's up to us as an industry to build our audience in such a way that it's not just the Kenyan audience that's looking for the films. Because people out there are really hungry. We have the event Shots, and Shots. It is a traveling event. So like we've done screenings in Paris, we've done screenings in Durban, in Tanzania. And every time we go, people actually want to come out, especially in Europe. People actually do want to come out and watch these films because they don't have access to them. A film like Shimoni, when it went to France, as much as it did independent cinemas, it had like a whole 10-week cinema run in France. A Kenyan film done in Kikuyu. There's a whole audience out there. I think it's just up to us on how to figure out like how to build it and or rather how to like congregate it to actually watch this. And I do agree there's a bit of gatekeeping in terms of data, but I also think it's because there are no systems, because you don't know if you put out my film made this amount of money. I don't know what's going to come out from that. I don't know if crew will be like, and she never paid me, things like that. So I also think we kind of need to first figure out the system and the industry, like what we need to work collectively and not, because until we figure that out, until I know if I give Mumbi my information, my data, like my film made this amount of money, like it won't cost like chaos, then everybody will be willing to share that. On audience building, how we do audience building. So DocuBox, like I said, the third thing that we do is audience building. So through screenings, which is both in schools and in communities. So most of the times when we support films, we always end up taking them back to schools, right? Because we understand that we need to grow the audience when it's young. So by the time they're turning 18, they've grown up watching Kenyan films. Most of us did not. Every time you switch on the TV, like at 9 p.m., you'd be watching like Bold. Okay, after news was Bold and The Beautiful, or wrestling. Like there was literally barely any Kenyan content on TV. But then it's also up to like the ecosystem players to actually do the work of building the audiences from ground up. And there are organizations like Tunga Africa, which is taking films to school in a way that the African films are being used in lessons, like in classes. So like, for instance, our Kenya Create slate, which was licensed by them, was broken down into 7 subjects. So like English, and I was like, how is this film into English, guys? Anyway, but it still works, right? And it's a thing that we all have to do together. Like, as you're trying to figure out how to do your screenings and all that as filmmakers, we need the money, 100%. But maybe when opportunities come for, let's go show this film in the community, don't turn it down because it's not paying. Because that's your way of building an audience. So if guys see your film and they really like it, and then the next time they see your name, chances are they will actually pay to come and watch it. So I think it's also just as filmmakers and as ecosystem players, just exploring all the other alternative distribution that's there that gets us an audience that's actually talking about the films.
Good evening. My name is Pauline Ulare. I'm a photographer and also I work in marketing and communications. First, I'd like to shout out DocuBox. I think I attended the first edition of Shots, and Shots years back. I think it's when they showed the film Utapata Mwingine. I'm not sure if it was. And I remember thinking it was such an amazing concept. And I was really hoping it would continue. And that first edition, the shots were free, thankfully, and the cocktail. My question is in regards to script writing. mostly. I know we've talked about the rushing of scripts, but how do you do quality control in terms of when a script runs too long? Because there's a point you can watch a certain film or telenovela or a series and you feel like this is being dragged along a bit too much and you're just like, it needs to end. So how can we ensure there's some sort of quality control? And also on that note, how do we ensure the protection of intellectual property? Because we know there are people who have brilliant ideas and maybe they go present it to someone and then they're told this can't work. And then a few maybe months or years later, they see the same concept. Of course, it won't be executed as well as they had it in mind, but they've already kind of lost that idea. So is there a way it can be protected? And the final question is on the marketing part of it. How can we better market our stories to pull in an audience? The way we advertise it and make it popular, maybe you used a popular trend to market it. How can we better do that so that we can support our own stories so that it can in turn support the actors and the whole film ecosystem?
I think just like any other art form, this is an art form of taste. So it gets really hard to see those kinds of mistakes sometimes if you're a solo writer by yourself. This is why we encourage writers' rooms. We encourage you to hang out with your fellow writers, pass your scripts around. I think if you were to formalize it a bit more in terms of your development space, I think this is something we tried to do. We did actually with Sugar, because they had the money.
Yeah,
but it's to do the focus groups, right? So you have your outline at the very beginning, focus group that, do they like it, what makes sense, what doesn't make sense, blah, 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 move on to your treatments, your scripts, so we had a lot of that. And you can do the same thing for even the completed films, right? So your film is in edit, do the focus groups. That's one way of doing quality control. I think it's also important for you to be a bit more, it's dangerous as well to do that because, sometimes you might, too many cooks spoil the broth type thing. It's a fine line. Again, it's an art form. There's some scripts that need more work. There's some that don't. There's some notes I take. There's some notes I don't. I think if for the writers in the room, I think the easiest way to say this is when you do receive your notes, the thing to look at is not what the note is saying, but what seems to be the block, right? So somebody will say, I don't like this character doing this, right? It's not that you go change whatever that character is doing. It's asking yourself, why don't they like that? And it might just be simply, there's something that you haven't presented before that, highlights that this character is this type of person so that this now makes sense. So it's taking those notes in that way. In terms of IP, when I started out, I used to be afraid of that. And so I would have NDAs with all sorts of producers who I think probably did not even want to talk to me ever again because it would be such a block before we even start getting to talk about the story. That fear went because it's what you said, they can't ever do your story, right? So I don't think that should be a fear in general. But your story, the moment it's written down, is protected under IP law, as long as it's written down. If you have that evidence, and now we have emails, whatnot, the paper trail exists, so there's no problem. On top of that, you can register it with, Kekobo. So it's not that expensive. I think it's like 1,000 bob. So yeah.
I think one thing I got from her, Arnold, I'd love you to really answer this is, let me just be blunt. Why is Mother-in-Law still on TV to date?
Is it? Is it?
Please, is that what you're heading to?
Okay.
That's what she's really asking.
That's a shocker for me. It's still on air. I'll tell you why it's still on air.
Why is it still on air?
I'll tell you why it's still on air. It's still on air because it's making money for whoever is putting it on air. Otherwise, if it was not making money, it would be out. So that's why. That's the only reason. But whoa, man. Oh, man. It's still what?
Yeah, it is. Well, no shade to the producers,
oh
but
my
anyway.
God.
Anyway, as we're getting up for our next question
there's a question about distribution and marketing. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Also, I think it's on air because it's owned by Citizen. I think. About marketing and how we can do it better, I do think one of the things that producers have a shortfall on is when we're doing budgets, you don't budget for your marketing at the very initial stage when you're raising the money. So that by the time you're done with your film, you're crawling by then. So if you don't have marketing money, you'll just get to the finish and then that's that. As producers, we kind of need to be more intentional in putting effort in marketing. And also, I think not waiting until you're done, like you've locked it, for you to start talking about it. We've all watched Marvel movies. These guys start talking about their films even like when they're literally in the writing room, right? So I think it's having the courage of actually start talking early, like I'm working on this film. And it's as easy as using your actors and actresses to start talking about this film that they're working on. I mean, Mumbi has an audience that loves watching her, right? So when she starts talking about, I'm working on this project, by the time she's done with it, everyone will be waiting for it. So I think it's about producers being more intentional on how to actually like have marketing as part of the main production activities.
Yeah, I'll just second that. On Talia, I did not do that. And I really wanted to take it to Mashinani and all those places. I just didn't have the money for it. So it dies there. So definitely budget for marketing, for sure.
I think from where I sit also, this is a button I throw to you filmmakers, is I sit at the press. So we do wait for these things to come to us. So how are we supposed to know about your film if you've not sent it to us? I think it's also a you thing. It starts with you, then it gets to us as well, right?
My name is Wisdom Mandela. I work at Lightbox Africa. All the films, Better for Laikipia, Soft Tea. We've worked together with Lightbox to create local IP. And to me, because as filmmakers, I'm a filmmaker, we really get a lot of criticism from the audience on our stories. And I'd urge every other filmmaker here to, like, we really try so hard to make our films Kenyan, and we're just forgetting we're just human beings. Like, we're losing the story when we're trying to make it Kenyan. Kenyans feel, Kenyans get angry just like normal people. All the films that get to festivals, honestly, they never really tried so hard to be Kenyans. They just tried to show humans as they are. And it's like, we always try to say like, oh, we just have to have this guy, Muyana Bongasheng, for us to feel like it's Kenyan. We have to have this guy who's a robber for us to feel like it's Kenyan. I'm like, honestly, that's where we're losing the story. And it's like, that's the pressure that we feel from the audience. It's like, you guys make us feel that pressure. We're like, we just want to make people feel something. You guys want to see something that feels Kenyan. We're like, then what feels Kenyan? That's the question. I think maybe when we live here, we should ask yourself, what really feels Kenyan, guys? Like, what's Kenyan to you? Because Kenyan is an amalgamation of so many cultures. We take from everyone, bro. So what's Kenyan? Ask yourself that question, and don't put pressure on filmmakers. As writers, DOPs, everyone on this whole chain, I think we just have to realize we're just normal people who have emotions. We just want to live, and let's not try so hard to fall into the audience trap of making things Kenyans, because the films actually do so better. Recently, one of our films called Zero won in Joburg, yeah? And it's because it speaks about human emotions, You see that kid there and you're like, you think about your brother, like you remember your little brother. It's not really focusing on, this guy, his name is Steve-O, like, Brayo. Like, that's not the focus, guys. The focus is we are complex people, Like, that's how we make our films Kenyans, That's how we make our films resonate with ourselves. So that's just like tossing it to the filmmakers and the audience as well. Like, when you're looking for something that's Kenyan, look for those emotions that feel like home. Look for those emotions that remind you of your mama or your cousin or that brayo as well. Like, all these deep things, let's not really focus, because we really surface level as well. Like, if we're really being genuine, the things we really love, we've put them here. But our films, do we think we are good enough to make good films, generally speaking? But that's the thing. We are good enough to make those films. And let's not try so hard to make our films Kenyan, because that's a trap. Yeah, Kenyan. What does that even mean?
Wisdom from wisdom.
I think the Kenyan conversation is really, it dissects across all industries. I do a lot in music, so We need it to feel Kenyan. It's such a conversation. Anyway,
Let me just respond a bit on that. Just to expand it even more. There's a very strong point he's making, and it's kind of what we are asking here. Like, what story is bankable? I think if you go into thinking about writing your story with that mindset, you will get nothing out of it. So it's like counterintuitive. I think get your producers, get your marketing guys, get them all in the room. When you've cooked and they're ready to take it out in the world, they'll figure out how to get that audience. But you tell your story. And I think that's what's important.
So my name is Victor Sayeni. I'm an actor. I'm glad to be here. Honestly, I feel like, rather, I know we have so many great stories. But I feel like at some point, our producers do let us down. I think they fear going much into marketing. The only solution to selling and getting whatever, more fans, more views, nowadays is just selling. I'm glad I've done public relations and advertising in campus, and I'm also into film. So I understand the only way to beat all this nonsense of, Kenyans are not watching our products, Kenyans are not focusing on us, just marketing, nothing else. Whether something is good or bad, they'll still watch it. And the more critiques they make, it means you're doing something, right? So I think the people failing us, the Kenyan film industry, not the actors, not the audiences, the producers. I think let me use an example of the Asian market. They do service funds. Yeah, let me use an example of maybe you have a couple on set. So they have shot the movie, but it's not out yet. So they'll start teasing you guys earlier that these guys are dating. And maybe in the clips they'll be releasing, maybe just random marketing ideas or whatever, random reels anywhere they are, they'll show you guys whatever chemistry these two guys have. So servicing fans, tell them, you have these lovebirds on set, and they're going to release this. Let them feel the chemistry between these people. They'll be more curious, to go and watch this and see how the story ended. I can use an example of Wuthering Heights, Jacob Elordi and Margot Robbie. These people, they've shown us whatever was happening before even Wuthering Heights was released. And when you watched Wuthering Heights, for those who watched Wuthering Heights, can confirm that. Like, it's there. The same thing. I feel like our producers are really letting us down. The actors will do their work. I can use an example of Abaja's recent release, Reckless. You guys did an amazing job. But I feel like your producers could have done more. It hasn't reached its heights the way it's supposed to have been. More fire, volume, the same thing. In fact, volume could have reached even bigger heights. We have amazing stories. Volume was great. More Fire was great. Reckless has been great. Sugar was great. Cash Money was great. But I feel like, Cash Money, for the people who watch Cash Money, I'm very much sure they're just a handful of people within Nairobi. Trust me, people from Eldoret, Kericho, Bomet, they don't know of Cash Money. They don't. It was on Netflix, yes. But whose problem is that? The audience? The actors? The marketing team. Even though it's for Netflix to market it, right? The producers as well. Like, it comes back... Susan, I'm sorry. It comes back to the ones who made the story as well, right? Maybe a producer one day can just decide and say, so today, we are closing the street from Haile Selassie to Archives. And here, we're just putting their banners for this, whatever you're producing. And anyone who's willing to come in and do whatever, I know there are much costs and everything, there's so much to be incurred there, production, whatever and whatever, payments, licenses and everything, I understand all that. But I'm an actor, as like I said before. What pains me much is that we actors do great jobs, but our products are not seen by the audiences, by the people, by our own people as much as we want. Not because we don't want to, but because the marketing side of it is really poor. Anyiko, I'm sorry.
No. It's okay. I just wanted to say, I think the point, imefika nyumbani. I also wanted to say it's not about battling each other's opinion. We welcome all opinions, and it's okay also not to love a certain production. It's not possible to watch everything and love everything. There's a lot of things that people are hype about that I've watched, and I'm like, I don't know what the hype is about this. In terms of finding your story, everybody loves different stories, and that's that.
No, I think you went on a rant about marketing, which is fine. No, which is fine, which is what I just answered the lady. Like, we do understand there's always a gap, but then again, it's because some producers don't budget marketing at the beginning. And you're in the industry, in the ecosystem, there's very limited funding. By the time you're getting to the end, you just want to finish your film, premiere it, and do your festivals. So if there was actually like a fund that gives marketing and distribution grants, you'd see like a totally different side to this whole thing. But then you also need to be cognizant of the fact that the funding is not as much. When you're looking for your budgets, you literally just want to get to the end because it's so hard to raise money right now. So I don't blame it on the producers. I also blame it on the lack of finances to actually get you to the end, to actually get you to do your marketing later. And that's why it was like, producers can start marketing their film in a more creative way earlier.
I'd like to just add something. I've seen shows that have become hits because of marketing, and the producers did plan ahead. The first one was Mali. I've mentioned that before. And the producer, by the time we were doing the script read-throughs, she mentioned that we're going to do billboards for the first time in Kenya for actors. She'd already planned that. I don't think they had money, at least what we were paid, for sure. There couldn't have been money, for sure, on that thing. And yes, it was a NTV. So I don't know if it's really about the money or if it's about the planning. As far as NAFC, when it first came out, I believe it was an independent. I think that, he did it with his own money. So it wasn't about the money, right? It was about, again, planning and including marketing into it. And he did such an amazing job. By the time it got to theaters, the theater guys were not taking it seriously because they're like, it's a Kenyan film. I mean, who knows how it's going to go? It was sold out. For 7 weeks, it was number one. People didn't understand what was going on, but he only had one billboard. One, which was strategically placed in a place where people kept thinking, there's so many billboards of nothing. No, there weren't. In fact, I think they kept it there for some reason because maybe they didn't have any other advertisers to put it on. So it just stayed for a really long time. So by the time it got to Netflix, it was already pretty well known and had already been, if you can call it success in this industry, whatever you can call it, the fact that it was so well known, it was about planning. And that's always been the problem as far as production. It's just pre-production. It's about creating our own structures. I don't think it's about the money.
I wanted to say something too. I'm just trying to figure out what I can say and what I can't say, because obviously when you do PR for projects and for clients, a lot of this work is confidential, especially depending on where your clients are coming from, where the budgets are coming from. But I just want to say, let's give a little bit more grace to producers, to shows, to actors, to the film industry, because it's not easy. There are a lot of producers who've come to us with major projects. I call them major because they're on major platforms. And in the planning, somehow the marketing budget fell off somehow. You got some money to produce the thing, but there's no money for the marketing. And so these producers are tasked with the hard question, like, fine, we have a great show on a major platform, but how do we not promote it? So they actually have to pick money from their pockets to pay for PR, whatever it is going to cost, but really out of their pockets. The streamers are like, whatever, we have hundreds of things, and they are doing much better than your thing. And especially when you're coming from this region, there's that bias. Your thing has to be produced. It has to do that run of how many weeks, or it has to launch in an international film festival sometimes for you to be given the eyeballs. So let's give grace to the people in the industry, and it's difficult. So I don't know, but it's difficult. And Cash Money particularly, you talked about that. Cash Money was trending on Netflix for weeks. So at least people were watching, at least for that period.
My name is Kyle Njihia. I am a creative strategist in the film, music, and marketing space.
You're also an actor. You're not even saying that.
The reason I say it like that is because I like to plan sort of like every project that I want to be on with the impact it's going to have on my brand personally. And I realized me boxing myself as just an actor, when I can also write stories, when I can also write scores, when I can also do so much, is really not going to portray the brand in itself. So I started introducing myself as a creative strategist in the film, music, and marketing space, just in case there's anyone who would, require any sort of collaboration whatsoever. Before I start saying, I can write, I can sing, I can rap, oh, I can act, I can also do this, we're going to take so much time. So I'm a creative strategist in the film, music, and marketing space. And my input is majorly on target audience because, God willing, I've had the privilege of sitting through when now clients are deciding who to consider for campaigns, billboards, ads, and all that. And two words that always pop up is target audience. And one thing I realized is the biggest consumers of content are majorly women and youth. Even if you go to your Instagram right now and you go to Insights, the biggest people who consume your content are women and youth between 18 and 34. But when we look at the number of content that we primarily put out, the woman is either poor and timid or rich and bossy, in a bad taste. And the youth is majorly going through something that's very detrimental, whether it's mental health or drugs, or it's just a bad boy, case in point. And so my question is, do you have maybe a target audience that you've built for DocuBox that has been working for you that you would advise? So that now, even as a scriptwriter, when I'm writing my story, I don't have to think, oh, my main character needs to be sadistic, da-da-da-da-da. And when you were writing for Sugar, how did the process of character birth was for you? How did you carry out the research to know that this is the type of person I need to tell, this is the story, and this is the impact it's going to have? So that's now, even when I'm watching it and I'm not the target audience, I understand. And I'm not entitled to maybe be salty and feel it didn't address me, it didn't entertain me. To understand that this was meant for that audience and maybe someone else can produce now for my audience.
There was a lot of research that actually went to it. By the time, when Sugar Global, formerly known as MTV Staying Alive Foundation, had brought us on board, they'd already been doing a lot of work in this space, right? So their space is, girls and youth, right? And the target audience for them was especially, I think, 16 to 22, 23, 24, around there, right? But they'd partnered with Shujaz, and what they were doing was, they've been looking at gender norms and all those things. The research was like insane. It was a lot. They'd gone into specific communities, that spoken to different groups of people, done months of this work, and then we were presented with those findings in the writer's room. So what we did now was look through all that research and looked at types of characters that we wanted to now explore. Some of those characters were just picked right out, like it's, this girl talked about this, right? This sounds like a very interesting type of person. Let's see, can this person talk about this specific aspect? It's education for girls. How is it impacting her life in that way? Who are the norm holders in her life? Who are the parents that are doing this and that? What type of parents are affecting her? So it became that organic way of building out those characters. So it was definitely the mandate that was brought to us by the foundation itself. So yeah, I don't know if that's something that happens in the other projects or more commercial projects. I don't think it's as extensive as that, because this was a non-profit project, right? So we had those mandates and we had to create these characters out of the research that was presented to us. I will say that our biggest challenge was the research was a lot. And I think one of our initial big mistakes was trying to create multiple characters for all those different things that we were trying to say. And this is why I think there's a major complaint, especially for season 1, where things are really moving fast. And I think it's because of that. Like, we were trying to just tell that story and get moving through. So yeah, there's a danger of too much knowledge as well in that respect. Yeah.
For DocuBox, when it's the programmatic grant calls, like I explained, it's tied to a certain theme. Yes, there's a target audience. So when you look at the Get Real slate where Sukari, Jimby fall under in 1992, that was SRHRJ for like 18 and above. So the stories that were told, similar process. Yeah, so similar process. We got people in the reproductive health rights space to come and, share their experiences and share their stories. And this is where the filmmakers got the ideas. Some were mad, some just came up with I picked this story and I followed that. Most fiction filmmakers just listened to what was being shared and then wrote the stories towards that. If you look at the Kenya Create slate, where Float Home, their body falls under, it was 18 and younger. So the films are geared towards that kind of audience. But for our general calls where it's not tied to any specific theme, it's your story that sells, not the target audience that we're trying to look for. We don't have a specific target audience unless it's tied towards a specific programmatic or narrative project, because then we end up using those films for impact, and that's what you report back to your donor.
My name is Faiz Francis Ouma. I am a performing artist. Thanks, sir. I have a question probably to Mumbi, from an actor to an actor, and anyone would like to take the question. So I'd want to engage you on what would define a bankable actor. Does it depend on the numbers you have or the work? Or, for example, I've seen a film blow up because of an actor or a character in the show, and I've also seen a film not blowing, though the casting was done depending on the numbers. And my second question is about the same face narrative. There's been a wave of lazy casting directors in the space. Is it a fault on the casting or on the acting or on the actor when the casting director is going for the easier thing? The character Bible talks about the actor is supposed to have maybe dreadlocks or looks up some type of way. So the casting director goes for whoever has dreadlocks and leaves the quality, right? So go for anyone with dreadlocks and you can act calm. Yet maybe you don't have dreadlocks, but you can ace the role, right? Yeah, those are my two questions.
What makes a bankable actor in this country? Perseverance at this point. I can't even lie. You're laughing because you know it's true, right? Because we're really just treading through very rough waters and we're trying to figure it out ourselves, because I don't feel like there are any structures that support us fully. I don't know about your experience, but I know for me, I think the only time that I've had something that has felt substantial for me has been when I've done international work as far as a paycheck. That's been sustainable to me. The other work that's been offered to me, even if I've been working for 10 years plus, hasn't made financial sense to me, right? I do understand that a lot of actors, what they've had to do is go into social media and do a lot of influencing work. And that's just part of the hustle, I guess. I think you can package yourself in a certain way. And that's very difficult, again, also in this industry, because the roles are limited. There's so much typecasting, which is what you're talking about. I'm shying away from actually saying that it's laziness, because it does feel like it. And it is true, because there's so many actors who have so much more to offer, but then they're only cast in one specific thing. And then so many really good actors are just left hanging, doing thug roles or doing bougie roles or doing whatnot. We were talking earlier about how a lot of the productions are rushed. We rarely get a chance or an opportunity to actually sit down and understand that, okay, there's development that takes place, and then there's the budget, and then we actually work on the pre-production, and then now we can start doing the casting. And you were talking about how you'll develop something for even years and sit with that before you even come and take it out to producers and stuff. I feel like by the time we get to the production state, casting is just left as a by the way. What I noticed is, for instance, in Nigeria, I talked to some producers, and I've done some work there. They actively will work to make an actor who's not necessarily well known and turn them into a star, because they understand if this person is this talented in this specific role, like they're this good, if I make them a star, I'll make money off them. It sounds like a bit of a crass way, but it works. You know, a lot of these very huge Nollywood stars were created by the producers. The producers did make them stars. I feel like we don't have that confidence in ourselves yet. In the same way we've been talking about storytelling, we haven't accepted that we have confidence to be fully authentic and then tell our own stories our own ways. And then we're not allowing a variety of different kind of actors to come through and show how they can portray themselves as good actors the right way. So it's just easier to close my eyes and say, yeah, I know Mumbi Maina can play the bitchy wife or the trophy girl or whatever. I know this another actor can just do that because it's easier. So it is lazy. You are right. I just think that a lot of people, when they talk about how we're seeing the same faces, a lot of audience members, I think, complain about that. And I just laugh and I'm like, the reason that you have such few actors who are doing this is because they're the strongest soldiers at this point. Like, that's honestly, it's true. Like, you've not. Honestly, most people have quit. Some of the really, really good actors who we don't see them on screen anymore because it's just too taxing. It's just too disheartening. I wish we were not at that stage. I wish it wasn't such a sad and depressing story. I wish there was something else I could say. But the fact is, it's just that. We've not been seen properly. You know, we've not been included. We've not been, there's a word I'm looking for, and it's just, I saw it just leave my head. Imagine me on set with scripts and then people are rushing me with the script that's been written 5 minutes before and I'm supposed to start acting and still be a good actor. But those are, again, strongest soldier. That's what happens. So I don't know if I've answered your question, but I just feel like I don't think at this point we're making money to be able to be considered bankable actors. I wish that was not the case, but it's just a fact. I wish we were being created to be stars. That's not where we're at. So it just comes down to asking yourself, okay, why am I doing this? And do I love doing this? And does it add value in my life? And for me, what's pushed me the most is realizing that there's impact if I am devoted to my craft at some point or the other. The impact that comes back makes it worth it. Not necessarily because of popularity, but because of the stories that are being told and because people want to see themselves in you, in whatever role that you're playing. And that's, I think, just what you have to go with.
My name is Alwaj. I'm actually an outsider. I work in climate justice, but I used to act in high school. So I'm just, at heart, I call myself an artist. And so I was learning about the Caribbean Revolution, and there's this revolutionary called Aimé Césaire, and his wife was called Suzanne Césaire, and Suzanne was a surrealist artist. And what she wanted to do with her surrealism is to make sure that Africans can reclaim imagination itself. Because the African imagination has been taken over by the colonial Trojan horse, among all the other things that happened to us. And so my question to all of you as artists is, what would it mean to you for Africans to be able to reclaim imagination itself so that we are able to dream how we could have dreamed before everything that happened to us? My second question is about the DocuBox external review process. Are the reviewers African reviewers outside of DocuBox, or are they outside of Africa? And would you be comfortable sharing what the criteria they look for within the story is, like what the good story is and how they choose the good story? Asante.
They are African reviewers because DocuBox exists to support East African filmmakers. So our money only goes to Africans. And the stories that you tell need to be African and need to be rooted in the authenticity of where you're coming from. The criteria, it depends on the different calls. So let's take, for instance, last year when we had the general grant call. And so we're looking for a short film, short documentary, 8 to 15 minutes. If you submit a script that is like 30 minutes, you're already out. If you submit an animation and a doc, you're already, like the kind of criteria. But then again, just the basic on story is we look for authentic stories. They have to be told by East African filmmakers because that's our mandate. And when the call is asking for African, it's going to go African. So you just need to fit into, because we do put out, every time we put out a call, there's a criteria and we do put it out. So you just need to make sure that the film fits into the criteria that has been put out. And I think I've answered the first one by answering the second one.
My name is Adolf or Adolf, depending on how you like to pronounce. Yeah, so very recently we saw corporate and film intersecting. You've heard about Keto, right? And you've had funding being mentioned here and there. So what's your take on the same? Should we see more of corporate inclining towards film so that we sort of bridge this funding gap? Yes, thank you so much.
Yes, we do. Corporates actually do need to get into the creative space. They've literally made music what it is, like by supporting music events. Safaricom with Jazz Festival, when you look at what blankets and wine, it's been built by corporates. So yes, we do need more corporates to do what Cooperative is doing. And the fact that it's actually corporates that are helping, Butita with his YouTube series by doing product placement and sponsorship. So yes, we do need more corporates to get into the creative space and support it.
100%. Yes. More money from corporates, please. But also beyond that, just, I don't know, if you've been in VC spaces and investor spaces, I don't know how those spaces operate, but we need more of those guys in here just because there are paths to profitability, but we also need the way they think, I think would help us as well in terms of just designing our products as well. So yeah, VCs, entrepreneurs, that whole ecosystem needs to also find its way in our sector, I think.
So we have, fortunately or unfortunately, come to the end. One last thing I want to ask you guys, and please summarize because you all are such storytellers. What's the one thing that makes you very proud to be an artist, a storyteller, and a part of the industry? And if there's any other thing you'd like to say, you can say it.
The one thing that makes me proud to be in the ecosystem as an actor in this place is just the growth of the film space in the last... This is literally just an NF for DocuBox, a selfish plug. But the work that DocuBox has been able to do in the last 13 years and just getting our stories into global platforms just by supporting, being the first supporters at home. That's something I'm really proud of.
You can't skip. Sorry. Actors are the worst actors off screen, right? So I'm like, what am I proud of in this industry? I'm proud of, geez.
No, let me ask, have you been proud of your performances or your performance, one of your performances?
That's a hard question because I've been very critical, very self-critical.
On yourself.
Yeah. It comes back to being proud of the impact that some of my roles have had on people. In fact, some roles that I would not have expected anyone would even care about, because most of my roles are very emotive and very dramatic. But one that shocked me recently was Second Family on Showmax. And she was just very nonchalant about her morals and very confident. And a lot of women loved how confident she was and how she portrayed herself and how she would even use her sexuality in a way that was contained but powerful. And I think that for me is probably what I would say I'm proud of, the fact that the roles have had specific impact. And that's art, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, yay, we found an answer for Mumbi.
Yes. Yes.
First of all, I want to say thank you to myself for persevering. But I get it. It's hard to think of, I look at everything I've done and it's not enough, right? Not nearly even close to being enough. But what I would say is, I wouldn't say necessarily proud, but I'm privileged that I can continue doing the work I do, continuing exploring the stories that I explore, thinking the thoughts I think. It's a tough industry, and somehow I'm still there doing these things. So I feel privileged that I can do that and happy.
Thank you so much to Mumbi Maina, Arnold, Mwanjila, and Susan Mbogo, our amazing guests on the podcast this week, who took us very deep into the conversation around making Kenyan stories bankable. I think after this conversation, you have insight as to what the audience is looking for, what the funders are looking for, and what the industry is really like out here. If you're an actor, writer, producer, director, emerging filmmaker, or even an organization supporting African film, this episode will definitely offer more insights, and please share it with somebody who you know can benefit from it. I think what we're trying to do is build stories that are genuine, that resonate locally and culturally, while at the same time succeeding commercially. And I think one thing that came out from this conversation is we still need to build better local systems. We still need to rally our communities better. We are doing a great job, but we really need to do a greater job. And I'm still looking for that one platform where I can go and know which film TV or theater performance is happening. There are many platforms that have many things happening around the entertainment scene, but I haven't seen that one platform that is just about events happening in the film, TV, and theater space only. So if you're listening and you're looking into opening a new platform, maybe this is a thing for you. I'm also thankful to Gote Institute for the support throughout the years. We are the 3rd year of running Industry Talks, which is an event series that happens at the Gote Institute. We've been recording all our events and broadcasting them on the podcast. So if you want to know more about Industry Talks, please feel free to go back to season 5 and listen in to all the amazing conversations that we've had, which are a wonderful resource for the industry and for you if you'd like to join the industry or if you're already working in the industry. Next week, we're going to have another amazing conversation and a guest who's coming all the way from the UK. Stay tuned. Be back here and leave us your comments on Anyiko, Owoko, or Industry Talks. Until then, see you next week. Ciao, ciao.
VIP Access Season 5 is proudly supported by the Gote Institute, Nairobi.